My family booked a beach vacation without telling me, then sent a text saying, "We assumed you'd just complain as usual." So I waited until the evening before the trip and canceled the cabin. The group chat erupted this morning. I, 32M, never thought my own family would treat me like a burden until last Tuesday when I opened my phone to find a group chat notification that changed everything. The message was simple enough. Beach cabin booked for next weekend. Can't wait to see everyone there. My sister had sent it, followed by a flurry of excited responses from my parents, my brother, and his wife. Everyone was talking about what to bring, who was driving with whom, and how excited they were for the family getaway. Everyone except me. I stared at the screen, scrolling up through the conversation history, thinking I must have missed something. But there was nothing. No previous discussion about dates, no questions about availability, no mention of whether I could even attend. They had planned an entire family vacation without including me in any part of the process. My hands were shaking as I typed my response asking when this had been planned and why I wasn't included in the discussion. The silence that followed felt deafening. For 3 hours, nobody responded to my question while they continued chatting about meal plans and beach activities. Finally, my mother broke the silence with a message that hit me like a physical blow. She said they had assumed I wouldn't want to come anyway since I always complain about family gatherings and never seem to enjoy myself. My sister chimed in, adding that they thought they were doing me a favor by not bothering me with the planning since I usually find something wrong with whatever they organize. I sat in my apartment that night, replaying every family gathering from the past few years. Yes, I had complained sometimes. When my brother chose a restaurant for Mother's Day that I'm allergic to, I mentioned it. When they planned my father's birthday party on the same weekend I had already told them I had work commitments, I expressed frustration. When they consistently chose activities that excluded me or ignored my suggestions, I spoke up. But apparently, advocating for myself had branded me as the family complainer, the person who ruins everyone's fun just by existing. The next few days were torture. The group chat continued buzzing with updates about their upcoming trip. They discussed grocery lists, reminded each other to bring sunscreen, and shared excitement about the beach house my sister had found. A beautiful 3-bedroom cabin just steps from the ocean, she said. Perfect for the family. The family that didn't include me. I found myself checking the reservation details that my sister had shared in the chat. She had booked through a vacation rental website, and in a moment of curiosity mixed with hurt, I looked up the property. The photos showed exactly what she had described. A stunning beachfront cabin with panoramic ocean views, a spacious deck, and room for 6 people. That's when I noticed something interesting. The booking was under my sister's name, but the payment method listed was a credit card that I recognized. It was the family credit card, the one my parents had added all of us to years ago for emergencies and family expenses. The one that technically made each of us authorized users. An idea began forming in my mind. I spent the rest of the week thinking about it, weighing the consequences. They had made it clear that they didn't want me there, that they saw me as a burden who would only complain and ruin their good time. They had excluded me from something that was supposed to be a family gathering, then justified it by claiming I wouldn't want to come anyway. But they had used the family credit card to pay for it. On Thursday evening, I made my decision. I called the vacation rental company and explained that I needed to cancel the reservation. When they asked for verification, I provided the credit card details and confirmed the booking information. As an authorized user on the account, I had every legal right to make changes to reservations charged to that card. The cancellation went through immediately. I didn't say anything to the family chat. I went to bed that night feeling a mixture of satisfaction and anxiety, knowing that tomorrow would bring chaos. Friday morning arrived with a fury I hadn't quite anticipated. My phone started ringing at 6:47 a.m. It was my sister, and I could hear the panic in her voice even before I answered. She told me that the rental company had called her about a cancellation, and she couldn't understand what had happened. She had tried calling them back, but they confirmed that the reservation had been canceled by an authorized user on the payment method. I waited for her to ask me directly if I had done it. When she did, I confirmed it calmly. I explained that since I wasn't included in the family vacation planning, I figured they wouldn't mind if I wasn't included in the family vacation payment either. The group chat erupted within minutes. My mother demanded to know how I could be so selfish and vindictive. My father called me immature and said I was proving their point about being difficult. My brother accused me of ruining everyone's weekend out of spite, and his wife chimed in that she couldn't believe someone would be so petty over a simple misunderstanding. But my sister's response was the most telling. She asked why I couldn't just be happy that they wanted to spend time together as a family. She said I was being dramatic and that they had only excluded me because they thought I wouldn't enjoy it anyway. I crafted my response carefully, typing and retyping it several times before sending. I told them that they were absolutely right. I wouldn't have enjoyed being treated like an afterthought on a trip where my presence was considered a burden. I explained that if they wanted to plan family vacations without me, they were free to do so, but they shouldn't expect me to fund their fun. I pointed out that calling it a family vacation while deliberately excluding a family member was contradictory at best. Then I added the part that I knew would sting the most. I told them that this experience had shown me exactly how they really felt about me, and that I would be taking their advice about not attending family gatherings to heart. They wouldn't have to worry about my complaints anymore because I wouldn't be there to complain. The backlash was immediate and intense. My phone rang constantly throughout the day as different family members tried to call me. My sister left voicemails that ranged from angry to pleading, asking me to fix the situation. My mother sent long text messages about family loyalty and forgiveness. My father's messages were shorter but more cutting, calling my actions unforgivable and childish. But something interesting happened as the day wore on. My brother, who had been quiet after his initial angry response, sent me a private message that evening. He said he had been thinking about what I said, and he realized that they had made me feel excluded and unwanted. He admitted that maybe they had been unfair in how they planned the trip. His wife, however, sent her own message calling me a spoiled brat who couldn't handle not being the center of attention. By Saturday morning, the family group chat had devolved into arguments between my parents about whose fault the situation was, with my sister frantically trying to find alternative accommodations for their planned beach weekend. Everything was either booked solid or prohibitively expensive for last-minute reservations. They ended up canceling the trip entirely. Update 1. The fallout continued for weeks. My parents stopped inviting me to their weekly dinners, which they claimed was to give everyone space to cool down, but felt more like punishment. My sister oscillated between guilt-tripping me about ruining everyone's vacation and trying to convince me that the whole thing had been a misunderstanding. But the most unexpected development came from my brother. 2 weeks after the canceled vacation, he showed up at my apartment unannounced. He looked tired and frustrated as he told me that his wife had been pressuring him to cut contact with me entirely. She had convinced herself that I was toxic and manipulative, and she didn't want their children around that kind of influence. That's when he revealed something that changed my entire perspective on the situation. He told me that the beach vacation hadn't been planned spontaneously at all. They had been discussing it for over a month in a separate group chat that didn't include me. The decision to exclude me had been deliberate from the beginning, and the story about assuming I wouldn't want to come was just a cover story they had agreed upon when I discovered the plan. My sister had been the one to suggest that including me would bring down the mood of the vacation. My mother had agreed, saying that I had been negative lately and they deserved a break from dealing with my attitude. Even my father, who usually stayed out of family drama, had supported the decision. My brother said he had gone along with it because he didn't want to cause conflict, but watching the aftermath of my cancellation had made him realize how wrong they had been. He apologized for not standing up for me and admitted that they had treated me terribly. I asked him why he was telling me this now, and he said that his wife's reaction to the whole situation had opened his eyes to something he hadn't wanted to acknowledge. She had been poisoning family gatherings for months with subtle comments about me, always finding ways to exclude me or dismiss my contributions to conversations. He realized that some of the complaints my family attributed to me were actually just instances of me defending myself against her passive-aggressive attacks. That conversation changed everything for me. It wasn't just that my family had excluded me from one vacation. They had been systematically pushing me out of the family dynamic for months, possibly years. And they had used my natural responses to that exclusion as justification for excluding me even more. Update 2. 3 months later, my relationship with my family had completely transformed, though not in the way anyone expected. My parents eventually reached out to me, ostensibly to resolve the situation. But their idea of resolution involved me apologizing for canceling the vacation and promising to be more positive at future family gatherings. They wanted me to admit that I had overreacted and that they had only been trying to spare my feelings by not including me in the planning. I declined their offer of reconciliation on those terms. Instead, I told them that I had learned something valuable from the whole experience. I had discovered that I didn't actually need their approval or inclusion to be happy. The months I had spent away from family gatherings had been peaceful and drama-free. I had spent time with friends who actually enjoyed my company, and I had pursued hobbies and interests that my family had always dismissed as boring or weird. My sister tried a different approach, suggesting that we could start fresh if I would just let go of the past. But when I asked her directly if she thought excluding me from the vacation planning had been wrong, she still couldn't give me a straight answer. She kept returning to the idea that they had meant well and that I was holding a grudge over a misunderstanding. The most telling moment came during a family dinner that I agreed to attend as a test. My brother's wife made a comment about how nice it was that everyone could finally relax now that the drama was over. When I pointed out that there wouldn't have been any drama if they had simply included me in the planning from the beginning, she rolled her eyes and said I was still playing the victim. That's when I realized that nothing had actually changed. They still saw me as the problem, not their treatment of me. They wanted me to return to the family dynamic on their terms, accepting whatever scraps of inclusion they chose to offer while staying quiet about any concerns or complaints I might have. I made my final decision that night. Update 3. I stopped attending family gatherings entirely, but not out of anger or spite. I simply recognized that I was happier without the constant stress of wondering whether I was welcome or when the next subtle slight would come. My brother maintained contact with me privately, and over time, our relationship actually improved. Without the pressure of family gatherings and his wife's influence, we were able to connect as brothers in a way we hadn't in years. He eventually told me that several other family members had commented on how much more relaxed and enjoyable gatherings had become without the tension I supposedly brought. That comment should have hurt, but instead, it confirmed that I had made the right choice. The most satisfying moment came 8 months later when my sister called me in tears. She and her husband were going through a difficult time, and she had realized that I was the only family member she could trust to listen without judgment or gossip. She apologized for how they had treated me and admitted that they had been wrong to exclude me from family activities. But by then, I had already built a new life for myself. I had strengthened friendships that had been neglected while I focused on trying to fit into a family dynamic that didn't want me. I had started dating someone who appreciated my directness and honesty instead of labeling it as negativity. I had found peace in my own space and my own choices. When my sister asked if I would consider coming back to family gatherings, I told her that I appreciated her apology, but I was happy with my life as it was. I explained that the beach vacation incident hadn't created the problems in our family. It had simply revealed them. And while I harbored no ill will toward any of them, I had learned that I didn't need to subject myself to a dynamic that consistently made me feel unwanted. She cried and said she missed me, and I believed her. But missing someone and actually valuing them are two different things. If they had valued me, they never would have excluded me in the first place. The last I heard, they still take family vacations together. They still have their weekly dinners and holiday gatherings. And according to my brother, they still occasionally mention how much easier everything is without having to worry about my reactions. I'm genuinely glad they're happy. And I'm even happier that I'm no longer trying to earn a place in a family that never really wanted me there anyway. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting back at people who hurt you. It's building a life so good that you forget why you were angry in the first place.